So I think after 12th is the right time to start flying training. So minimum requirement or the basic requirement is that the student should have a science background, especially if you intend to fly in India, right? So there is advancements happening in air taxis. So you're going to see a lot of e-taxis coming up. So it's basically a 4 to 10 seater small aircrafts which is going to take you within the city. This is really happening, and I think it's going to happen in the next maybe 1 year. If you keep yourself healthy and if you're medically fit, I think your career can be a really fruitful and a long career. So work-life balance is something which is very difficult. So I personally call it differently. I don't call it work-life balance. I call it work-life harmony. The major misconception was it's way too glamorous, but I think the fact that the life of 200 people is in my hands, right? In a good way, I'm saying, okay? And you take them safely. That challenge is what I enjoy the most. But overall, I think it's good. It's the right time to be a pilot.
Hi everyone, welcome to the new series of Prep Academy where we have conversations with people from industry. Today we have with us Mr.Kanak Chandramohan, and he is a person who has 10,000 plus flying hours, and he has worked with Indigo, Vistara, and currently is having his profession with Etihad. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to ask you something that what inspired you to become a pilot?
I think it all started with my childhood. So when I was growing up back in my hometown in Tiruvalla, I used to have these small aircraft models that I used to play with. So these were from my dad. He used to work for Oman Airlines that time before I was born as a ground staff. So he used to collect these aircraft models also, so which happened to be at home when I was growing up, and I used to play with these models. So I think that the first passion for flying started from there, and it was always back of my mind that probably this is something I would like to chase when I grow up. But of course, like any other teenager or a child growing up these days, there was pressure to be an engineer or a doctor. But I think somewhere this dream was always there, which made me, chase it as I grew up. So I think it started from there.
Can you tell me something about your schooling and your college life and some incidents which might have helped you to achieve your career?
So I did my schooling in Tiruvalla. I started in St. Mary's. I did my schooling there. Later, finished my 12th, and I went for flying. I did my flying in Australia. That took me about 2 years. And once I finished my flying, I joined Indigo. And along with that, I did my bachelor's in aviation. So I started with Indigo as a first officer and then eventually became a captain. After that, I did my MBA also. I did from UCLA during my breaks in flying. So yeah, so that's how it started.
So sir, we are actually meeting many people, many students from your school which you studied, and they would like to know how should they pursue their career as a pilot after +2, and what are the things they should keep in mind, or what are the processes they should go through.
So I think after 12th is the right time to start flying training. So the minimum requirement or the basic requirement is that the student should have a science background. So especially if you intend to fly in India, right? So you should have physics, chemistry, maths. That's a requirement as per India. Now this is the rest. This is only in India. If you go outside and fly, none of these things are there. So you should have a PCM in your 10+2. Then you can enroll in one of the flying schools. So now there are flying schools across India. There are flying schools that people go to in US, Australia, many countries like Canada. I've seen people now going to Middle East also. So there are different options. You need to choose a flying school, and then you need to start working on your exam. So eventually, if your aim is to be a pilot in India, first thing is you should have the PCM in 12th, 10+2. Then you need to do your medicals, right? So the aviation medicals are 2-step. One is a class 2 medical, and then you have a class 1. The class 1 is the highest. So if you want to have a commercial license or an airline transport pilot license, you need to have a class 1 medical certificate. So now you can start working on it. So the basic thing would be to first work on your class 2 and then class 1. So there are few places, like few hospitals across India where you can get your initial class 1 medical done. And I would recommend students first to do this medical before they actually go for their flying training, right? So it's just to ensure that you don't start with your training and you work on your hours, spend money and everything, and then you realize you cannot hold this medical certificate. The first thing is to get your medical done, and once medical is done, you can work on your theory part. The theory part is basically you have few exams on navigation, airlow, technical, etc. So you need to write these exams. There are many places which offer coaching for this. So you work on that, and then the other part is the flying. So now there are people who do this as a full program, like you enroll into a flying institute. They will take care of your theory and your practical. Even there are kids who do them separate, like they prepare themselves, they go to a coaching center, get the theory part done, and then there's for the flying part, they go to a flying school and just get your flying hours done. Now, the first step in is to have a PPL, which is private pilot license, which is about, you need to approximately do 50 to 70 hours of flying, and you need to have a class 2 medical. So then you are eligible to be a private pilot. Now, with that, you cannot do commercial operations, right? To do commercial operations, you need to have a CPL, which is called commercial pilot license. So that would need approximately 200 hours of flying overall, and you need to have a class 1 medical. So these are step-by-step processes where you start working on the initial exams, the theory exams, then you work all the way to the CPL exams. Along with that, you do the flying part where you start building your hours, both dual training, which is with the instructor, and your solo hours. So you keep building on that, and then you eventually reach that step of CPL. Once you have your CPL, you are eligible to work as a first officer or a co-pilot of an airline. Then you need to build the hours in an airline. Once you hit 1,500 hours, and when you finish few more exams, now the exams never stop, it keeps coming. So once you finish those exams and 1,500 hours, you can get the ATPL, which is the Airline Transport Pilot License. Once you have that, now you are eligible to be a captain. Now, whether you become a captain or not, it's based on where you work, which airline, whether they need pilots, captains, etc. But that is kind of the generic requirements for each step.
So recently, some airlines are offering some career opportunities, like they're training the students and they're doing all this educational related help for them. Can you please elaborate on something related to that, please?
Yeah, sure. That's right. Now, there are a few airlines in India, like Indigo and Air India, recently, which have started. They offer this complete training program. So they call it as a cadet pilot program. Outside, what we can think about, I think Emirates also offer something similar. They used to offer, but whether that program is still current, I'm not sure. Overall in Middle East, I think Emirates offers. Air Arabia has a MPL program, which is still there. Qatar Airways also had this program in between. They keep starting this program, then they pause it in between, and then they restart. That's how it goes. But in India right now, the major two airlines are Indigo and Air India. They offer it. So it's essentially the entry starts after 10+2. So you finish your 10+2, you write, there is an entrance kind of exam. So how you write an entrance for engineering or a medical, you have an entrance exam. Once you clear that, then you sign up for this program. It's about 3 to 4 years of training program where you do your flying training and also you work on your graduation also along there. And these training programs completely happen in India these days. Although in between they're offering it outside, but Indigo, I think, has tied up with CAE Gondia. It's near Nagpur, where they have this training facility where they get these guys trained from this cadet pilot. So get these guys after 10+2, get this complete trained over there. So it starts with an entrance exam. So they do the entrance exam and then they will do the medical test also. So once you clear that, then of course there's a fees for it. And once you pay that, you can start with that. The good thing with that is your first job is guaranteed, right? So you finish it, then if you're an Indigo cadet, you start as a first officer with Indigo. If you're with Air India, then it's guaranteed that you will start as a first officer with Air India. Yeah.
So what are the challenges actually faced by a flying cadet?
Challenges for a pilot is, I think if you look at a day of a flying, right, you can say that a takeoff and landing are the most challenging part. But if you look at it as a career, it could be some emergency that you end up handling. It could be a medical emergency that you have one passenger who's unwell and you're right now in the middle of the Arabian Sea, right? So need to try your best to make sure that you you get this passenger out alive, right? So it could be a big thunderstorm. You will be navigating weather just to make sure that you and your passengers and the aircraft are safe. So it could be it's a very dynamic environment that we work in. It changes every day. It's not a 9 to 5 job. It could be you'll be flying at 2 in the morning over Indian Ocean, and you'll be faced with all these challenges, right? So you need to be up for it. So I think it's very dynamic. It's a continuous challenge process, but overall, I think in a normal day, it would be a takeoff and a landing, which are the most challenging part.
So, how do you see the future of aviation while these advancements of autonomous aircrafts are coming in?
Yes, I think you are right. There are a lot of changes happening in the industry. We are going through a phase where we are going to see a lot of changes in the coming years. To start with, what I can see is the major manufacturers like Airbus and Boeing. They are working on a single man cockpit. So right now we have 2 pilots, a minimum of 2 pilots. So if you look at 30, 40 years back, you had 3 to 4 people required in a cockpit. Okay, now we are in a time when we need only 2, which is a captain and a co-pilot. And right now the industry is working on making it 1. I'm not, as a pilot, I'm not 100% sure how that's going to work out. But definitely that's a direction these guys have taken. So in few years, or eventually, it's going to be a one-man cockpit. It's going to be one pilot who is going to fly you from, let's say, from Delhi to New York. It's just going to be a one pilot. So that's how the industry is headed. Also, there is advancements happening in air taxi. So you're going to see a lot of e-taxis coming up. So it's basically a 4 to 10 seater small aircraft, which is going to take you within the city. So let's say you are in Cochin or you are in Bangalore, from one point to the other. Now you're going to, instead of taking a taxi, a car, you're going to take an air taxi, which is going to take you from one end of the city to the other end. So this is really happening, and I think it's going to happen in the next maybe 1 year. With already the aircrafts are almost at the verge of getting approved. I think Indigo has also, they're going to place an order for some e-taxis. Even the major airlines, including Etihad and Riyadh, they're all planning to place orders for these e-taxis. So I think these are two of the areas where there are advancements, which is happening. Also, the fuel is going to change. So right now we have the jet fuel, right? It's the same fuel which we have been making from the fossil fuels. Now I think slowly they're moving more to a sustainable aviation fuel, SAF. There have been trials happening, and I think last year when I was in Vistara, we did one of the trials for SAF. The first commercial flight with passengers was done by us in Vistara.
As an advice to our aspirants, there would be many misconceptions about aviation industry, and there would be concerns about job security and other things. How would you address them?
That's a good question. There are definitely challenges when it comes to job security in aviation, especially because health is also something which plays a major factor in the career of a pilot, right? So the basic thing is, if you keep yourself healthy, and you as an individual should take the responsibility for that, to keep yourself healthy. If you keep yourself healthy and if you're medically fit, I think your career can be a really fruitful and a long career. As a pilot, you can be engaged in commercial activities till the age of 65. So it's probably longer than some of the other jobs that you can do in life, right? So and I've seen myself, I've flown with guys who were really fit even at the age of 65. On the day of their retirement, they were probably even fitter than me. But also on the other side, on the flip side, I've seen people who get really, they lead some really unhealthy lifestyles in their 20s and 30s, and eventually they'll reach a situation where they'll have to move out of this career, or they may get medically unfit. So that responsibility is definitely with the individual. You need to do whatever you need to do, like lead a healthy lifestyle, work out, exercise, eat good food. These things are definitely there. Once you do that, I think it's pretty secure. If you talk about downturns in the industry or overall in the market, I think that affects all the industries, right? It's not really aviation, so it can affect other industries. So similar effects would be there. If you talk about COVID, there were people who lost jobs, but the extent of the impact was much less in India. I think there were few pilots who were made redundant from airlines like Indigo, but if you look at Vistara and a few other airlines, they did not even fire even a single pilot. But if you look outside, the effects were much more. Like if you look at Europe or UAE or the Middle East market, there were a lot of people who were made redundant. But once the market started picking up, they were all called back. They all got the jobs back, and now it's back to it's now we are at a time within 3 years of COVID that we are in a time where every airline is hiring, they're paying bonuses, everything. So there would be instances or a small time frame where it might affect you, but overall I think it's good. It's a right time to be a pilot.
So one most important question is, how do you manage your work life by being such a demanding job? And also there are certain misconceptions about your job also. Can you say something about that?
Okay, so first is I'll talk about work-life balance. So it is something very difficult. It's not a 9 to 5 job. I'll put it like that. And you don't have weekend off, or you don't have public holidays, right? So these are probably a weekend or a public holiday or a school off time is when the traveling is going to peak, and you would be required to fly more. So that is something very difficult. So work-life balance is something which is very difficult. So I personally call it differently. I don't call it work-life balance. I call it work-life harmony, right? So it's very difficult to have a balance. I can't say I'll work only so much time and I will spend so much time with the family. That's not going to happen. So there would be time when I get free time, like it would be a Wednesday and a Thursday of a week, which there's absolutely everybody, all my friends are working, and I'm the only one free. So, but that's the challenges, or that's what the that's how the job is. So you need to prepare yourself, right? Plus, this job also requires a lot of conditioning, like sleeping habits. Like there is no guarantee that you're going to sleep every night from 10 in the night to 6 in the morning. And most often, one night you would be sleeping at 11 in the night. The next day you're going to be up all through the night. The next day you're going to go sleep at 2 in the morning, right? So these are some of the challenges. So I have been doing it for the last 15 years. There are a lot of people in the industry who have been doing it for much more than me. So you will get a hang of it. So once you start doing it, and if you're disciplined and if you're committed to it, you will get a hang of it. So that's the first part. The second was on misconceptions. Yes, the major misconception, even if I had when I got into this industry, was it's way too glamorous. There's a lot of things happening inside, right? I think that's the biggest misconception which is there. It's a very it's not an easy job. It's not that you get into the industry and then you're going to have a really good life. You're going to just travel to places and you're going to enjoy. A lot of people have this misconception that you're going to go to different cities. One day I'll be in Munich, one day I'll be in Milan, etc. But the reality is that you will reach Munich one day, but you will be really tired, probably to even step out of the hotel. But as a disciplined pilot, sometimes it's really necessary that you use that 24 hours or 20 hours that you have in that city to take rest for your return flight. If you don't do that, then you are putting yourself and the life of other people in trouble. So there's a lot of discipline. You will definitely get the perks of it. You will enjoy the perks of it, but you need to be really careful and conscious about it.
So coming to our final question, it's a bit personal. What do you enjoy? What is the most thing you enjoy about your job?
Yeah, I have loved this job from day one, but I think the fact that the life of 200 people is in my hands, right? In a good way, I'm saying, okay? I'm responsible, that responsibility that comes with, taking these people from one place to another, making sure that it's very safe and you take them safely. That challenge is what I enjoy the most. And especially when everything goes against you, you still need to. So we call the cockpit to be a very professional place. So if you look at Indigo, Indigo has put a really nice sticker on the cockpit door. So whenever you go into an Indigo aircraft, just look at the cockpit door. They put a sticker there. It says, flying is a serious profession. please leave your worries behind this door. So once you cross that door, you need to be a really professional there. You need to leave all your worries. So there are days when you really don't want to do this job. You are up at 2 in the a.m. You go for this job. But then you need to show up as a captain. You are the leader of the team. There are about, let's say, 8 to 20 people working along with you, even more. You need to show them they all have the same issue. They're all getting up at 2 in the morning and coming for this, and you are the leader of this pack, right? So you need to show them how it needs to be done, and I don't think that's easy, right? So that is something, and you do it every day. So I think the challenge of that is what I enjoy the most.
So thank you, sir, for sharing some quality time with us. Actually, the things you have conveyed to us, we can't find this information elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, and thank you. I really thank you for inviting me here for this, and thank you so much. Thank you.